What's up, good people? I hope you're doing extremely well. And if not, I hope that we could change that in the coming moments. Right now, you're listening to the FreeSpur channel where we talk about health and money to help us have the best life possible. We're doing a series right now on higher education. I want to have this conversation because I am someone who has went through the higher education process. And I have a lot to say on this matter, and I want to go through this right now with you. So don't go anywhere if you are in any of those categories, or if you're just somebody that wants to learn something new about higher education. Just listen to this right now. So let's hop right into this. The burning question right now that I have that I want to answer is, what should you learn in college? What should you actually be learning in college? And I want to answer that question because I think a lot of times we are entering into higher education, a lot of people, because it's the next thing to do, because we've been told this is the next thing that we have to do to start our path to a career, start our path in life, to have a better life, to have a more fulfilled life, to have, a life that is more connected to financial prosperity. We are told you have to go to college as the next step. And I think a lot of times with that information, people really don't know what they want to do or what they want to learn. And they don't understand how those things really add up to the sum of where you're trying to go. If you're trying to be an accountant, if you're trying to be, a professional basketball player, whatever you're trying to be, you need to know how what you're learning is going to add up to success in those things. So I think it's very important to really have a clear picture of that. And I think it's even more important to know if you're capable of doing those things. Because a lot of times you can, get to a point where you're just spinning your wheels. I think in higher education, in college, where you're spinning your wheels on something that is, something you might not want to do, or something you're really interested in, but you might not be suited for it at the moment. You might not have, the groundwork, so to speak, to get the things done that you need to succeed at that thing. And what I mean by that is, for instance, in anything, any discipline, any industry that you go into, there's a learning curve. There is, fundamentals. There are fundamentals. For instance, in art, by trade, I was an artist, and I went to art school, and eventually ended up being, a graphic designer, illustrator, and worked, in that industry and in those industries successfully. But before I got to that point, there were years and years of learning basic fundamentals of art. Things like, what is a line? What is, a circle? How do these shapes align? What is scale? What is, what are these elements of art? All the elements of art and, texture, line, design, all of these fundamental things that add up to building blocks to get you to the point of understanding, how do I apply this to a particular industry or discipline? And I think a lot of times people skip over that part. I think what's happening now, in a large part, is a lot of people are skipping over those fundamental building blocks and just doing a specific task. Like, for instance, you have a lot of people who are, quote unquote, Instagram photographers, or, people who learn design by doing social media and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, learning and being able to execute design fundamentals that way. But I think one of the things, and a photographer, was a really famous photographer, actually, that I think about now. He said something to me one time that really stuck with me in this realm. You can be very skilled at one particular thing that you do repetitiously, but if you are not immersed in the fundamentals of a particular thing and really understand kind of why those dots connect, and why things are the way they are from a really basic level, basic fundamental level, and the building blocks that are associated with that, sometimes what happens is if you run into trouble, and this is where the rubber meets the road, if you run into trouble, which we all do, that's when it'll tell on you. Like if you get into a situation where you have to solve a design problem that you have not encountered in that bubble of a world that you have been working within, then there's an issue. And that's where higher education does come in to play. And I think just understanding it from that point and understanding the building blocks to get you there, because higher education is not what it is without the building blocks. And I think that's one thing we have to understand, that it's all cumulative. All these things build upon each other. And that is not to say at all that you have to go to college or, get a traditional education to do great things or to do any particular discipline. You just need the education. You need the information, and you have to be immersed in the information for a period of time. That's what's important. And I think we have to be able to discern between, hey, I'm just learning this one key thing here to be able to do this task, versus no, I'm learning this discipline in its entirety so that I can be a master of this discipline and solve problems. Because that's what it comes down to. If you want to be successful at anything, you got to be a problem solver. You have to be able to solve the problems that are going to come your way in that particular discipline. It doesn't matter if you are a painter, a roofer, a baseball player. The experience and the cumulative education that you acquire around that particular discipline is what separates you from a novice, is what separates you from someone that's, decent at it, but not a master at it. You have to have that experience and that cumulative education. So yes, higher education is one of those places that you can get that, and you have to understand what you need to be learning. So to get to the root of the question, what should you be learning in college? One, you have to figure out what you're going into and be willing to learn the skills that are associated with that. And again, as I just said, even before you get there, you have to start building those building blocks. So it is very important that you have kind of an inkling of, hey, this is the big picture of all the things that fall into this realm, or all of the different things that are in this house of this industry, or whatever education that you're trying to acquire. Like if you're an artist, here are all the things that are associated with art that I could potentially do as a career, or just whatever, or as an entrepreneur. It doesn't always have to be a career, or as an entrepreneur as well. Here are all the potential things that I could possibly do. Now, how do I break down and acquire the skills that are associated with all of these things? How do these pieces fit together? And I know a lot of times people will tell you, look, you got to go on one thing and stick to it and, just become really good at that. And, that's true to a certain extent. It's very important that you become a master of whatever discipline it is that you hone in on. But I can tell you from experience that the first thing that you want to do is you want to understand all of the moving parts as best you can. What is involved in all of the possibilities. If I'm going to really enter into it from a career standpoint, because, and I say this because you never know how things are going to shift and change with industries. Prime example, something like a Blockbuster. That was one particular industry that was very brick and mortar, and it had a specific business model that got turned on its head by a disrupting business model, which was Netflix. So just in a blink of an eye, those things happen. And as someone who may have been going into that industry, going into that type of business, with the ideal that, hey, I'm going to be successful in this company because I know videos, I know how to service this particular customer. But here is another way to do that comes along, and it's the same product. The underlying product is the same. It's the same. It's a movie. It's entertainment, it's content, but the way it's disseminated changed. So what I'm trying to get at there is understanding the big picture of an industry sometimes goes beyond the way something is being delivered and beyond just the surface pieces that you can see in a nucleus way of what you're doing. So having that big picture, having that understanding that things may change. I need to have a greater understanding. I need to have a deeper knowledge and a diverse knowledge of what could be coming down the pipe is a very good place to start. So, and it doesn't matter what the industry is. It doesn't matter, what you're going into. Just having that aptitude to shift and use the knowledge that you're acquiring in whatever way is going to be the next way to do things and whatever way is going to make you successful. So you need to learn how to be adaptable. You need to learn how to adapt information. And once you learn that, once you kind of grasp that, you can start to position yourself in any position within an industry. So as an artist, I can do these number of things. I can be a graphic designer, I can be an architect, I can be a musician, I can be a painter, I can be all of these different things that derive from my abilities and my skill sets as an artist. Now, whatever happens, I have those skill sets, the backbone of those skill sets, and they're transferable. Like right now, the world is really pushed towards videography and all of those things. As an artist, you have the skill sets to do that. It's just applying yourself. It's just applying those things and having that aptitude to shift, because it's all about perspective. At the core of it, it's all about your perspective and how you see the world and how you're able to present the world to others. That's at the core. When you learn that and that's the core of it, you can then take on those other disciplines and those other mediums and use them at will. And not discrediting time at all when I say that. What I'm saying is that it's very important to have the aptitude in whatever industry that you're going into. That's what you want to learn. And the next thing you really want to learn in college is how to be a people person. The world is full of people, and a lot of things that happen are people driven. And oftentimes we forget that. We get in our own silo of what we want to know and what we want to learn. And yes, that works in our, direct peer group, but oftentimes to expand beyond wherever you are, you have to expand your knowledge and you have to expand your circle of people. So becoming as much of a people person that you can, and I'm not saying that everybody has to be the same bubbly personality type person. That's not it at all. And you'll find that a lot of people who are very powerful in sales and all of that, they're not bubbly people. They're not people that are, A-type personality that you think they are. They just know how to turn that on and present themselves in that way when they need to. So learning that as a skill set is very important. And I think that's one of the things you can learn in college if you are around the right people and you push yourself to be in different scenarios and different situations where you're uncomfortable. That's the key to it. If you want to learn how to navigate people and navigate the world from that perspective, you have to push yourself in uncomfortable situations and be able to learn the different nuances of how people solve problems and deal with situations. And those things go a long way. And that's one of the things that I think is very powerful that you can learn in college, is how to interact with, different people or people from all walks of life. And the last but not least thing I think you have to learn in college is how to be yourself. Now, some people learn this before they get to college, but a lot of times people are learning this during those years of development in life, because college can be one of the only places that affords you the time and space to be yourself without responsibility. Now, when you have responsibility, and yes, you do have responsibilities in college. Yeah, you're responsible for yourself, hopefully, and there's a lot. It depends on your situation, whether you're going to be, working while you're in school or what have you. So, it does vary from person to person, but it is one of the moments in your life, where you might not have kids yet, you might not be, financially obligated to anything other than school. And there's something great about that moment. So if you're in that moment in your life, that's one of the main and best things that you can do for yourself while you're in college. Really learn who you are. Now, there's a ton of more stuff that I think is very important that you learn in school, but I wanted to give you those three things because I think those are three main things that are very important to your success. And we'll talk about more as the series goes on. I hope this has been extremely helpful for someone. And until we talk again, I wish you health, wealth, and freedom.